It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show.
Welcome to the Dep Lewis Show, episode 122. This is your host, Dep Lewis, and today is Sunday, March 30th, 2025. A great day to do a podcast about video games and more, and that is what I'm here to do. So welcome to the show. I hope you're doing great out there in the world. Thank you for being here once again. If you're a loyal listener or, if you're a new listener, what's up? Thank you for being here. The first order of business is to ask you to follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. Find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. Twitch.tv/Dep Lewis Show is a great place to follow. I've been streaming there every Sunday afternoon, and that is the plan for the foreseeable future. Been playing some Zelda Breath of the Wild over there, making some progress, trying to complete a Zelda game for the first time. So check me out on twitch.tv/Dep Lewis Show every Sunday afternoon Eastern Standard Time for a couple hours. If you'd like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available. If you'd like to subscribe monthly, also Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you'd like to support the show. And this show that I keep on rambling about, what is it? Well, I'm going to tell you about it. There are 3 sections, as always. The first section, I'll tell you about what video games I've been playing since I've last talked to you on this microphone. The middle section, the mid section, which is not mid in quality, is the most important section of the show. I tell you about what is going on around the video game world that you need to know. So all the news, happenings, releases, rumors, speculation, details, sales figures, everything you need to know is in the middle section to keep you up to date with the video game world. And the final section, the miscellaneous talk section, is a break from the video game world where I can talk about anything I want to outside of the video game world. So I usually get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what is going on with my favorite teams. And I actually went to a sporting event yesterday, so I'm going to tell you about that in the third section, the miscellaneous talk section. So that is the plan for Dep Lewis Show, episode 122. So thank you for being here on this Sunday, or whenever you're listening to this podcast, possibly in the far-flung future. I hope you are having a great time while you're listening to this. And if you're not having a great time, I hope things get better, if not immediately, very soon. So, welcome to the show, the Dep Lewis Show, episode 122. So what have I been playing? So I mentioned I've been streaming, I think for the last month, every Sunday I've been streaming in the afternoon for a couple hours. I've been making some progress on Zelda Breath of the Wild. This is a fresh file. I played when it came out, or shortly after, maybe 20, 25 hours. And now I am almost back up to that point again, starting a new file. So I've never completed a Zelda game. I've played most of them. I do enjoy them, and it's like a red mark on my video gamer report card or something like that. But I've been making some progress there. I completed the first Divine Beast last week on the stream. So I completed the big elephant guy around the Zora territory. So I completed the Zora shrine. I got the Sheik armor was another thing. That's something I was hoping to get to. I needed like 1,400 rupees, and I was able to cook some stuff and sell some things and make enough money to buy the stealth armor. So I have all 3 pieces of that, and now I am ready to, make my way downtown. Who sings that? Vanessa Carlton, making my way downtown. Or yeah, I guess it is. I guess it is Vanessa. But so I streamed the whole, the last couple streams I've been just doing Zelda Breath of the Wild. So it's been very fun. I plan to keep on playing this on stream and making some progress there. So please come check that out. So what else have I been playing this week? I've been playing some Persona 3 Reload. Been making a little bit of progress here, making my way up some floors, going to Tartarus and having to fight some guys. I really like the combat section and the combat in general. I like how many different weaknesses there are to try to exploit during battle. I like how the combination of characters flow. I like how you can audible out of the character you are in sometimes to get more of a favorable hit. There's some pretty cool things in there that, like, strategy-wise, that are really fun. And then all the trappings around this game, like the music, the art style, the graphics, are S tier. They're really, really amazing. So being able to get into a little bit of the combat recently, I think, has been a nice touch and helping me make some progress here in Persona 3 Reload. But that game is extremely fun. I really like the characters in the game and just everything it's doing. I used to be a little bit more worried in this game about the day-night cycle and having to worry about, progressing the time forward and you don't want to, but you end up finding out it's pretty clear that you can just walk around like infinitely, basically, and there are direct actions that will proceed time forward, and they will, ask you before doing them. So you really do have all the time in the world to explore. There's, you can walk around to all the areas, talk to people, look at things, pick up Twilight fragments, and really just explore around for as long as you want to. And as long as you don't go do an activity or proceed time forward in some way, then you'll be safe to explore. So I think that's really helped me enjoy this game more and give it more of a relaxed vibe instead of something that you feel like you're trying to push the days and make sure you're trying to maximize what you're doing in the days and things like that. So it's been a fun change of thought while playing Persona 3 Reload. But I think this game is really, really cool and fun, and I plan on playing some more of this. So what else have I been playing? I've been playing some Ratchet and Clank just randomly throughout the week. I've been playing the 2016 release, so that's a PS4 version, and I've also been playing, so I've never completed that version, and it's sort of a remaster of the first Ratchet and Clank, so something I'd like to complete at some point. Then I'm also getting back into Rift Apart. So Rift Apart is a game I've completed and enjoyed, but just been back playing a little bit of Ratchet here and there when I don't. That's kind of the game I've been throwing on when I'm not sure what to play. I'll just play some Ratchet for a bit and make some progress. So that's been a nice addition to the rotation. And then also something I've thought about streaming today possibly, because I've been playing it this week, and that is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. So I've almost completed a campaign with Tony Hawk, the man himself, the bird, the man, the myth, the legend. And this is an amazing video game. So I'm pretty close to finishing it. I don't have really that many goals left in the one campaign, so I'm possibly thinking about finishing that on stream today, and I can add that to another game this year that I've completed. But Tony Hawk 3, one of my favorite games of all time. I've completed it, many times back in the day, but haven't played it in a long time, and it's been fun, getting back into that. And I have had to use a guide to figure out a few things, but most of the game is pretty memorable, and I've been really enjoying that about it. So, you might catch me playing some Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 today, but hopefully I'll be completing that game, at least one campaign run to report back to you next week, and I can add that to the list with Gears of War 4 on, games from a prior year that I've completed this year. So, that's going to be probably a lot of the games I complete this year are from prior years, but we're going to see. But talking about that, it is the year of no direction on the Dep Lewis Show for what I am playing. I'm just playing whatever I want to, whatever I feel like, no specific genre, anything like that. And, it's mainly been a little bit retro, been a little bit RPG, and then I've been back into the, Ratchet and Clank and Tony Hawk. So I guess a little bit of nostalgia blast on the video games, but still finding some time to try to make some progress in Zelda, and then still playing a big time RPG in Persona 3 Reload. So some really great video game stuff going on with me. And I plan on playing a lot of these games in the upcoming week. And I think that is everything I have to report for myself. So, I don't have any new releases coming out that I'm planning on getting. And, just plan on playing a lot of these old favorites and trying to make some Zelda progress. So that's the plan over here in my life. And that is going to wrap up the first section of the show. So that's been the intro. That has been what I've been playing this week. I've been playing some Zelda Breath of the Wild, Persona 3 Reload, multiple Ratchet and Clank video games, and then Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. And then, so now we're going to take the first break of the show. You're going to hear some lovely break music, and we're going to come back for the mid-section of the show this week, where I tell you about what is going on around the video game world. And a little bit of a spoiler, there is a lot of Nintendo news, and we're going to be having a lot of Nintendo news next week as well. So we are, we're living good over here in the video game world of getting some news. So, you don't want to miss any of the Nintendo talk, and you never want to miss a midsection, because then you will not know what's going on in the video game world. So listen to this music and come right back for the midsection of Dep Lewis Show, episode 122 after this. Welcome back to Dep Lewis Show, episode 122. This is the midsection where I tell you about what is going on around the video game world that you need to know. So, my eyes have been set on the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that is taking place next week, if you're listening in real time, April 2nd, 2025. We've been waiting on that for months now. And then you know what? You know what happens last week? Last Thursday, March 27th, and it took place at 10 a.m.? Nintendo had a Nintendo Direct for only Switch 1 stuff. So they had a Nintendo Direct. I'm going to tell you about what's going on with that. So they dropped a sort of a surprise. There was a few people online that were talking about this beforehand. So there's some pretty reputable, or not reputable, but pretty, what's the word? Pretty, like they're on it. Pretty accurate leakers out here. So they really know some things. So we need to, a lot of these Switch 2 rumors are probably going to end up being kind of true. So we will see. We're going to talk about some of those in a bit too. But some pretty exciting stuff going on with Nintendo. So we had an unexpected or sort of expected, unexpected Nintendo Direct featuring around 30 minutes of upcoming games for Nintendo Switch. And they said there will be no updates about Nintendo Switch 2 during this presentation. So, the overall, to bury the lead here, there wasn't too much really great shown in this Direct. I think it was nice. My thoughts after the fact are, I think some of this stuff was nice. I probably want to play some of this stuff. I think my anticipation right now is for the Switch 2, and I think that's probably the case for most people out there in the world. So I also think this is a nice Direct to get not out of the way, but have these announcements and games, be a little bit separate from the presentation next week that we know is going to, supersede everything. So, and hopefully we're going to have a bunch of new games that are going to try to entice us to buy the Switch 2, and they don't want to step on these games that are already, in the books, ready to come out. So, I can understand it. And I think this was a pretty cool way to do these announcements. And, I'm happy at any time they do a Direct because there's something in there I'm going to be interested in. And that's just pretty much guaranteed with the quality of the stuff they put out. But I'm going to tell you about what's going on with this one and everything they've kind of announced in here. So if you want to go watch it too, it's on their YouTube. I'm not going to talk about all the games that they showed in this showcase. There was, many of them. So everyone's taste is a little bit different. So please go check this whole thing out if you'd like to. But I'm going to give you a kind of summary of what I think is important from the recent Nintendo Direct that just happened this week on Switch 1. So they showed off some more Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. We still don't have a release date, so that's a little bit disappointing here. And I guess they are trying to, thinking through it right now, they're trying to wait until next week to get the Nintendo Switch 2 details on the books. And then they will start, planning and releasing dates for other things based upon that, I guess. So they don't want to put the cart before the horse or whatever kind of phrase you want to say in there. So still no release date shown for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. They showed off some of Samus's psychic abilities, which are new abilities in this video game apparently. And at the end of the trailer, they teased a new suit. So if you want to see some Metroid Prime 4 Beyond footage, you can go check this out in the recent Nintendo trailer. A lot of people online were saying this game looks like a last-gen game. I don't know. It looks like it's running on a Switch 1. I've been into some of the Metroid stuff recently. I've been playing some of Prime Remastered and really enjoying that. So I can see how the world isn't, I don't want to say extremely important. The environment of Metroid is very important, but it's more like a vibe. I don't know. The gameplay is good enough that some of the visual stuff I think can be lacking in this game is my general take on it, not having completed it yet. So I don't think this game has the most, amazing, brilliant visuals, but I think the art style is cool. I think Samus is an infinitely cool looking character. So I think that is a great base to work from in these Metroid games. And, I would put some faith into this game. So Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is a game. It's coming out in 2025. They're saying we don't have a date yet. This is the case where it's going to be a Switch 1 game, and what's it going to be like on the Switch 2? Is it automatically going to be better? Is it going to be a different SKU? Are they going to have a what's that going to be? I think that's something that everyone wants to know, and I want to know as well, and something we're going to hopefully find out next week on the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct taking place on April 2nd, 2025. But Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is a video game. I think for my personal self, I don't know if this would be a day one purchase, just based on the fact I would like to play the prior Metroids first, I think, because I do have Prime Remastered. You can play, the second one is on GameCube, and the third one, I guess, is on Wii. So the third one, I don't know if there's another way to play the third one quite yet, but maybe they would do some type of remaster. I'm not really sure, but I would like to play some more of the Metroid, and I'm playing Dread. I've been playing Metroid Fusion, so I have a lot of Metroid games I'm dipping my toes into recently, so I could definitely see myself playing this game at some point, but possibly not right at release. So what else did they talk about in this Nintendo Direct? They showed some more Pokemon Legends Z through A. So, these are things we've been seeing. There's still no release date for it, which is a little bit of a disappointment. Just 2025. So, they're mentioning these games, not really giving us too much more information date-wise, but they're just showing off some more of the gameplay. Pokemon Legends Z through A, I think is going to be a pass for me. I think it looks like a fine video game. I just don't know with the amount of video games that I actually play these days if I need to be playing games that I'm not completely excited about. But that's a little bit of my take on the Pokemon Legends Z through A. But I do have some excitement for that because I like some Pokemon. All right, another game. So this was actually a new release they've announced in this Nintendo Direct, and that was Rhythm Heaven Groove. So a new entry into the Rhythm Heaven franchise. Rhythm Heaven is also known, I thought this was pretty interesting, also known as Rhythm Tengoku Gold in Japan, Rhythm Paradise in Europe, and Rhythm World in Korea. So a couple different names there. based on the territory. But this is going to be a brand new entry in the rhythm game franchise, and it's going to launch on Nintendo Switch in 2026. So a little bit disappointing there. I think that was kind of the general sentiment in mine as well, that this seems like something they would have delivered sooner. But we do have the ambiguity of the Switch 2 release, so I can get not wanting to be in that mix. So I don't know, just interesting timing with some of this stuff, and it's definitely a strategy on their part with some of these things. But this one being 2026, I think is a tough sell. I think it's a long time to wait for how much people are going to be excited about this. But I guess they're planning a long end tail in this game for being around a long time. People discovering it later, and it's just kind of being like one of those classic Nintendo games. But hopefully it'll be a good entry. The original release in this franchise was Rhythm Tengoku in Japan for the GBA in 2006. Rhythm Heaven, known as Rhythm Tengoku Gold in Japan, is the second entry released in 2008 for the Nintendo DS. So a franchise I never played. I've always known people to hold this franchise and get in some of these games in high esteem, and I have thought about wanting to purchase the game on DS. Is the most recent one I've thought about purchasing, but I've never played any of these games and would be interested to do so. But this would be one where I don't know if I'd purchase it day one unless I was just really looking for something new to play. But it's not coming out till 2026 for Rhythm Heaven Groove. So what else did they show off in this Nintendo Direct? They showed off a new game called Tomodachi. There's like Tamagotchi. There's Tomodachi. I don't know if I've never noticed that before in myself, but this one is called Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream. So this is going to release in 2026 as well. So a little bit of a disappointment there. When this was the final thing talked about in the Direct, the opening scene almost looked like something from Animal Crossing New Horizons. So I got immediately excited. It was going to be an Animal Crossing game or some type of update. But this is another game sort of in the same similar style that people love, just something I've never played. But Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream, is going to release in 2026. It'll be the first new entry in over 10 years. So another franchise being revived. It's a social sim game featuring Nintendo's Mii characters. And this trailer they showed off shows life living out at sea. So pretty interesting. I don't know if this would be something I would immediately want to buy. I would be looking forward to the next Animal Crossing more than anything. But I think a lot of people were surprised by this and excited about it. And it might just be something that I've been missing a little bit on my radar of franchises that people are craving out there in the streets. But Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream is going to release in 2026, and that is what Nintendo closed out the Nintendo Direct with this past week. So a couple other games I want to highlight from this show that I thought looked interesting. One definitely I thought looks really, really cool, called Witchbrook. I don't know if this is something I want to play, but I think this game looks really, really amazing. It's developed by Chucklefish and Robotality, the publisher by Chucklefish, or published by Chucklefish. They showed off some gameplay and some co-op stuff. In this game, you can discover magic and mystery in Witchbrook, a spellbinding witch life sim for up to 4 players. Start your life as the newest resident witch in the building seaside city of Mossport. Make friends, find love, and discover a world filled with wonder and charm on the road to graduation and beyond. So, the comparison game of this, to try to describe it to you, would be Stardew Valley and Harry Potter. So really, really cool. You can play 4-player co-op. You can fly around in the world on your brooms. This game has really amazing, beautiful looking pixel art, and I don't know how this game would not be successful. So please check this out. I don't know if this would be something I would personally play, but I can imagine this game being wickedly successful and fun, and definitely something I'd like to watch people play, if not play myself at some point. So for Witchbrook, it's going to release sometime this holiday season. Another game with an ambiguous release date, but something definitely worthwhile to look at, to go check out Witchbrook. A couple other games. Well, this next game, the next 2 games I'm going to tell you about. Well, there's a couple more. I got 3 of them that they did give release dates for, so we got a little bit here. A game called Shadow Labyrinth got a release date announced for July 18th, 2025. This is the 2D action platformer in a genre-twisting alternate take on the iconic Pac-Man. So they showed this off in a Direct last year, I believe it was. So this is, if you remember anything, it's just, a modern kind of wild take on Pac-Man. So Pac-Man's involved in this game, but it looks like almost like a Metroidvania side-scroller type of thing. So, definitely an interesting, creative take here on Pac-Man. So this is going to release Shadow Labyrinth, and not even Pac-Man in the title. So that's a bold move there. They're really trying to, set out on something new here. So Shadow Labyrinth is going to release for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, and Steam on July 18th, 2025. It is a 2D action platformer and a genre-twisting alternate take on the iconic Pac-Man. As the swordsman, you wake on a mysterious planet amidst relics of wars past. To survive, you will discover secrets, consume your enemies, and grow from prey to apex predator. The developer is Bandai Namco Studios Inc., and something that looks pretty interesting. And I have more, just like outside interest on this one, I would say, from then wanting to play it. But I hope this game is going to be enjoyed by many. I hope it's going to be of high quality, and I could possibly be playing it at some point in the future. You never know. So Shadow Labyrinth is going to release July 18th, 2025 for a myriad of consoles. But, we're talking about the Nintendo Switch Direct this week. So what else did they really talk about? So another remaster. We've got a couple remasters here to talk about. So that is pretty typical here of what you should or what we should expect for the end of a life cycle on a console. You're not going to get most of the big heavy hitters. You're going to be getting just nice additions to the console collection, and I think that's nice in general. So that's how I kind of look at most of this stuff. It's not things that I immediately want to purchase, but I could see myself purchasing in the future, possibly on sale. And it's just really nice to have these. All these games are going to be on, Switch, and then you can play them on Switch too, is what we're hearing. So Patapon 1 plus Patapon 2 Replay has been announced. It's going to release on July 11th, 2025. Become the mighty one of the Patapon and guide them on their adventures through the rhythm of 4 drums. So this is a rhythm game. Command cute and mysterious eyeball-like creatures known as Patapons. As the player, you are the god of the Patapons and lead them on a grand adventure to Earth End. So the original Patapon released in 2007 for PlayStation Portable, and the Patapon 2 released for 2008 for PlayStation Portable. So, bringing some portable games to a new portable console, but you can also play on your TV as well with the Switch. So pretty cool. Coming out on July 11th, 2025, Patapon 1 and 2 Replay. So I've never played Patapon. Always thought this franchise looked really cool. I do have some interest in some rhythm games, and could see myself playing this at some point in the future. Another game I could see myself playing, and I have some interest in, but nothing really too new shown with this, but they're just mentioning again this is going to be released, and that is the Dragon Quest 1+2 HD 2D remake. So they just recently released last year the Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake, which is the, I guess, like chronologically, story-wise, 3 is the beginning, and then it goes into 1 and 2 if you're taking it by the story. So that is the plan here for kind of the backwards numbering on the releases here. There's still no release date for this, but they just showed some of this off, so I wanted to mention it. Something I've wanted to play some Dragon Quest at some point in the future, and just a franchise I have on my radar. Something I've never really played before, but I think I would enjoy. So just want to mention Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake is TBD on a release date for the Nintendo Switch, but it is coming. Another remaster, some game I'm not familiar with, but is developed by Atlus, which is I've been playing Persona 3. I definitely love the music in Atlus games, and I think is a developer that I like more than I even know. But there's a remaster coming called Raidou, Raidou, I hope that's how you pronounce it, Raidou Remastered, The Mystery of the Soulless Army. It's going to release on June 19th, 2025, developed by Atlus, published by Sega. The story of apprentice, detective, and devil summoner extraordinaire Raidou Kuzunoha, the 14th. So Raidou Kuzunoha the 14th returns in this remastered classic. Call upon your demons to solve supernatural mysteries and dispose of enemies. The standard edition is $49.99 US. The original release was on PS2 in 2006, and it was titled Devil Summoner Raidou Kuzunoha vs. the Soulless Army. So if you played any of the more recent Persona games or Metaphor or anything like that, you can definitely see some of the similarities or commonalities between these games, even from back in the day. So they've been doing a lot of similar things that people love and carrying them throughout different franchises and video games. And it's cool to see a through line from their development and like creative style, that you can look at these games from the past, not really know too much about them, but you can see some subtle things that you're like, oh yeah, that looks like an Atlus game. And I think their particular style is extremely cool. And this was just something that definitely caught my eye in the direct. That is something I'd like to play this possibly play some more Atlus games and just put them on my radar a little more in general. All right, so that's all the games from the direct I want to highlight and mention on this show. There was definitely many more shown, so please go check out the Nintendo Direct that just took place last week on their YouTube. I think it was around 30 minutes of games and things talked about and shown, so please go check those out. But I went through all the main things that I thought were super interesting, like Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, Pokemon Legends Z through A, Rhythm, Heaven, Groove, Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream, Witchbrook, Shadow Labyrinth, Patapon 1 plus Patapon 2 Replay, Dragon Quest 1 plus 2 HD 2D Remake, Raidou Remastered, The Mystery of the Soulless Army. And the last thing I want to talk about from the Nintendo Direct that just took place was they announced virtual game cards. And I'm going to try my best to explain this to you out there in the world, and also explain it to myself as we go through this. I've written down all the notes from Nintendo, so I'm going to read through them here. I'm going to tell you about what's going on with these virtual game cards. And I guess just to tell you, I think this is going to be okay if you come in contact with people that play Switch a lot. Like if you have friends, you see them from time to time, maybe you go to their house, maybe you, I don't know, go on a trip with them or something like that. You're going to be able to switch games a little bit easier if you want to. And I think that's going to be nice. I don't think it's going to have a ton of use cases besides that, or maybe between a family, or possibly you could get a group of friends together with this and, not game the system, but you could, sign up for one of these things and have a chance to switch some games back and forth to each other more than you would at current state. So this is taking a step forward into sharing your digital library, and I think that's kind of a cool thing in general, even though I don't think this is going to set the world on fire for me or possibly a lot of gamers. I think this is kind of the beginning of one of these types of features. They're taking a stab at it, and I think it is interesting just because of that, basically. But I'm going to try to explain the virtual game cards announced in the Nintendo Direct. So they're saying the virtual game cards make digital games even easier to use. The virtual game card feature for Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. So I think it's nice that they really did make this kind of like a big deal announcing this. So it's definitely going to be a feature that they planned and put a lot of thought into, and they are already marketing it for the Nintendo Switch 2, which is coming out this year and should have a 7 or 8 year long life cycle. So this is going to be sticking around for a bit here, and hopefully if it's not good at the beginning, they're going to upgrade in some way. But I'm talking about the virtual game card. So system adds some of the flexibility of physical games to your library. If you have two systems, you can digitally eject and load games from one system to another, and you can even lend games to members of your Nintendo account family group. So the one thing here, if you do have, two systems, you can have your profile on both systems and have your games digitally downloaded on there already. So that's not too much of a concern at this point, because you just have one designated as home. I don't know if there's an issue with having to connect to the internet to access the games if you're one of those two switches. I think maybe there is one of those things, but if you just have two switches and you play them at your home most of the time, you can have your digital games on there pretty much no problem, I would say. But I think this is going to add a little bit of the functionality where it doesn't require that internet check in there. So it's making it a little more permanent is what I'm taking this as. So you can move your games between systems. If you have two different systems linked to the same Nintendo account, you can choose which system to play it on, just like with a physical game card. And that's kind of the same way still with digital games, I would say. But they're saying simply eject the virtual game card from one system and load it into another. So maybe it's just going to be more of a seamless, easy way to do this in general, if that's a thing. Once a virtual game card is loaded to the system, not only can you play it without an internet connection. So I think that's a pretty important part here, and I think that is kind of the upgrade of this system and process. But other user accounts on the system can play too. You can also manage and load virtual game cards via your Nintendo account on the Nintendo website. So the other part of but other user accounts on the system can play too is interesting, because if you have multiple different users on your Switch, if you have a digital game or a physical game purchased on there, the other user can use it. I think if you are, I think possibly if it's a digital game on one of those, you couldn't do so. So, I'm a little bit confused here on the use case for some of this stuff as well, but just trying to think through it with you. But the other users on the system can play too. So, if I borrowed a game from a friend and I had another user on my Switch here at home, I think they could possibly play that borrowed digital game, which I don't think you could do previously. So I think that's a pretty cool addition to this as well. You can also manage and load virtual game cards via your Nintendo account on the Nintendo website. So I like some of that stuff where you can download, you can manage your library on a website. I think that's kind of nice. I use it on PlayStation from time to time. And Switch, when you buy games, you can start downloading them immediately from their website. So I think that's pretty nice too. So that's how you can move your games between systems with the new virtual game cards. And they're also saying you can lend games to members of your Nintendo account family group. So you can also lend out virtual game cards to your Nintendo account family group members. Just connect to your family group members' system via local wireless when you want to lend a game. Both systems must also be connected to the internet. You can lend one game per account for 14 days unless the borrower returns it earlier. After the game is returned, the borrower will still have their saved data, so they'll be able to start where they left off if they borrow again or purchase the game. So that really is like going to Blockbuster, but it's your friend. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see what the feedback is on people using this. I don't know if I'm really going to ever have a case of doing this, but I'll definitely be listening and trying to watch people online, seeing what they're talking about this. But this is the new virtual game card feature announced in the Nintendo Switch Direct. So that was the last thing I wanted to talk about from the Nintendo Switch Direct that took place this past week. So that was kind of the final Direct, the swan song for the Nintendo Switch 1. Everything going forward should be Nintendo Switch 2 related. There's going to be some backwards compatibility stuff, but everything going forward is looking like Nintendo Switch 2. So if you're listening in real time, the upcoming week is going to have the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that we've all been waiting for. So it's taking place on April 2nd, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's taking place next Wednesday if you're listening in real time. I'm going to be dialed in, ready to watch this and talk about it on the podcast next week. So, mark your calendars. If you don't want to watch it yourself, come back here to the Dep Lewis Show next week. And I'm going to be talking about everything from the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. Hopefully going to be getting a pre-order in myself. One of the rumors I've been hearing this week, though, is we're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait about a week to get pre-order. So I've been hearing April 9th has been the word on the street. I'd have no clue how valid that is or how true that's going to be, but I would love for the pre-orders to go live on April 2nd because I'm taking some days off next week for a few different things, but I'm also off on the day of the Direct. So hopefully I can watch this Direct, have it blow my mind and be very excited and get a pre-order in is the hope. So either way, I'll be back next week talking about this on the show. So thank you for listening to the Dep Lewis Show. Always, you never want to miss an episode. But the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct is coming next week, April 2nd. I'm here on April 9th for the pre-orders going live, and I think the only wrinkle in this plan for me, I think the only way this can go bad is if Mario Kart, so they're saying we're going to be able to pre-order, the day of or a week later. I've heard a lot of things about this coming out over the summer. If this game is going to release over the summer with the only new game being Mario Kart, I think there's a chance I don't want to purchase it. And I think there's been some reports of like a tiered structure to some game releases coming out of some, we're going to have initial launch of something. We're going to have some more third-party games coming a couple months later. And then a couple months later is going to be the holiday season. And that could be possibly the first, where the big Mario 3D game's getting released. So I don't know. There would be the argument in there having the console being prepared for the big releases. Obviously, if I had, all the money in the world and all the resources, I would want to buy one of these day one. But if it really is just going to release with a Mario Kart game on day one, I think that could almost be a negative impact on me wanting to pre-order it. So that's kind of the last thing I'm looking to see in this upcoming Direct next week. I want to see some software. If they're going to have a new game that's only Switch 2 available, they're going to have me hook, line, and sinker wanting to purchase this. But other than that, I really have a little bit of apprehension there, but hopefully I'm going to be excited. And most likely I'm going to be, because I think they realize a lot of people will feel that way. But we just don't know yet. So we will see. So next week we're going to get the Nintendo Switch 2 news and come back to the Dep Lewis Show, because I will definitely be talking about it. So that's all the Nintendo stuff today for this midsection. And we have a lot of stuff in the midsection today, but a few more things to talk about here. So one thing we talked about last week is related to Game Informer, the print magazine and website, the long-standing print magazine that got closed down abruptly, maybe half a year ago or a couple months ago. They were teasing something that was going to take place on March 25th, 2025. And so what was the news here? And the news here is that Game Informer is back. So, all the speculation after that announcement was correct. We got a letter from the editor-in-chief, Matt Miller. He said over the month since the closure, two remarkable things happened. The first is that Game Informer as a brand and an outlet was purchased and given a new lease on life. The second is that the entire team that was working together at Game Informer's closure has returned, from editorial to production and beyond, the entire team. How did this all happen? After first touching base with our team and ensuring our interest, the team at Gunzilla Games secured the rights to Game Informer. From the start, the new owners insisted on the ideas of Game Informer remaining an independent editorial outlet. They felt just as strongly as our team did that the only path forward was with an editorial group that made 100% of the decisions around what we cover and how we do, without any influence from them or anyone else. So Game Informer now operates under an entity called Game Informer Inc., and our intent is to continue to focus on highlighting the coolest games, celebrating the history and legacy of the gaming industry, and shining a spotlight on the creators and players who are charting its future. So pretty cool stuff there. The website and many years of back content are back. They've added a dozen new reviews, so they've been working even through this downtime when the website was closed. They've been still doing reviews, and they've also done a best of 2024. So, congratulations to them on getting their job back. This is a pretty cool story just in general. Even if you're not like a day-to-day reader or a follower of this site, it is a long-standing thing through video games history. It's definitely something I've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of over the years, and just pretty cool to see this revival. It definitely was a really cool thing to see, just as a, especially as someone doing a podcast now about video games. This was nice. This is a kind of like a big budget team of people talking about video games, getting paid to do so, and it was abruptly shut down. Most people on the internet are, kind of doing the solo thing like I am. There's a lot of people doing things like I am, but there's not many stabs at, the big kind of corporate thing. And to see it get shut down abruptly is kind of how you expect some of the corporate stuff to go. But to see it be revitalized and for them to retain their editorial ownership and things like that, I think is a really cool thing, and hopefully something that can lead to success for them, and something that I think is just good in general. The creators should retain their independent control, and if someone wants to invest in them, they should be investing in, I don't know, everything's not 100%, but I like the idea of, keeping control over what you're doing, especially if it's something creative, because that is kind of the whole point of doing something creative. So Game Informer is back. The print magazine is also going to return. I don't think that is a home run of a return, but they're going to do it in some small way, it seems like, and try to really just tailor this content to the people that appreciate it and have them support it. So really kind of putting it all on the line out here for people that like Game Informer and want to support it with their hard-earned cash. And I think it's just a cool thing in general. So, congratulations to them on getting their jobs back. Shout out in particular Kyle Hilliard and Charles Hart, two people I watch on MinMax content and really enjoy, and I'm glad to see them, hopefully being very, very happy about this change in events with Game Informer. So really, really cool. Definitely something nice to see. Yeah, I think it was definitely something nice to see, especially with a lot of bad, video game news these days, delays and layoffs and things like that. This one's just kind of a win, seemingly for the good guys, and hopefully can result in some great things down the road, is my thoughts on that. All right, what else is going on? Just a couple more things to tell you about, some video games. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, a game that released on Xbox last year, is now coming to PS5, and a release date has been announced. So we knew this was coming to PS5. We did not have a specific release date, but now we do. For Indiana Jones and the Great Circle coming to PlayStation 5 on April 17th, 2025. So just, a couple weeks away. It's going to be $69.99 for the standard edition, US dollars. Uncover one of history's greatest mysteries in a first-person, single-player adventure set between the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. The year is 1937. Sinister forces are scouring the globe for the secret to an ancient power connected to the Great Circle, and only one person can stop them, Indiana Jones. You'll become the legendary archaeologist in the cinematic action-adventure game from Machine Games, the award-winning studio behind the recent Wolfenstein series, and executive produced by Hall of Fame game designer Todd Howard. So this is a game I played maybe 5 to 10 hours of. I watched a lot of people stream and play this game, and I think it is a game of high quality. So I think it was a good win for Xbox last year. I think it's a good win for more people getting to play this on PlayStation 5. It's something that I would say, I would put more on the recommend. You should go try this out, or definitely go look into it and see if it's something you'd be interested in. I'm not really even someone who has a reverence for Indiana Jones, not in like a positive or a negative way. I just don't really know too much. I haven't interacted with Indiana Jones too much over my life, but I would think if you especially have a fondness for Indiana Jones and like video games, I think this would be a slam dunk of something that you should go check out or try to play. So Indiana Jones and the Great Circle coming to PlayStation 5 on April 17th, 2025. All right, another video game I just want to mention out there and put it out in the ether, someone else talking about it, is a game called Guns of Fury. This released earlier in the year on February 13th, 2025 for Nintendo Switch and Microsoft Windows, and I just heard about this in the last week. The developer of this game is called Gelato Games Limited, and I heard about this from Mary Kish on the most recent Fire Escape cast, another great podcast that takes place every other Monday. Mike, Mary, and Dan, and it's a really good podcast to follow and something I listen to every time they drop an episode. But Mary was talking about this on the podcast, recommending it to the guys, and then I actually watched her stream the game about a week later, and it, everything she was talking about, I think it lived up to the hype from watching it. So Guns of Fury is a retro-inspired action platformer that combines the run and gun and Metroidvania genres. Explore a vast interconnected world, gain new abilities and weapons, battle epic bosses, and stop the plans of an evil corporation before it's too late. So I think the first thing upon seeing this game, the visual style is just extremely cool. It does have the throwback style, but more, it's a modern video game, so I think it's a cool mixture. And more back of the box talk on this game. In the near future, the world is in an energy crisis. When all hope has been lost, world famous scientist Dr. Klaus makes a surprise announcement: the discovery of the Tetra Cell. Its incredible energy-producing properties could be used for the good of mankind. However, 24 hours later, he mysteriously disappears, and his lab is destroyed in an explosion. The industrialist A. Easton, president of Easton Industries, is suspected to have kidnapped Dr. Klaus, and that he intends to use the Tetra Cell to create a new type of super weapon. Wow, just coming in there and messing everything up. You assume the role of Vincent Fury, what a great name for a throwback character as well, a special operative on a mission to infiltrate the top secret research facility of Easton Industries, rescue Dr. Klaus, and recover the missing Tetra Cell before it's too late. So, pretty like an action-packed, seems like an action movie kind of storyline, but just a really cool looking game. I don't know how expensive it was or is. I think it might be released in early access. I usually write those notes down on here, but please go check out Guns of Fury. If you never heard about it, it's out on Nintendo Switch and Microsoft Windows right now. All right, the last game I want to mention, last thing I want to talk about for the midsection this week is a game called Schedule 1. This was something that released on March 24th, 2025 for Microsoft Windows in early access. This one has taken the video game world by storm. I've watched two streamers I enjoy watching, Heck and Steve. He also makes great YouTube content, but he also streams some, and he was playing this game. He was the first person I saw playing Schedule 1, and then the great Rachel K., a streamer I watch very often, is playing this game as well. So someone in the community bought this game for Rachel, and she's started playing it, midstream pretty much, and has been playing it for a couple days. She's got a crew together of people in chat playing, and has really risen up the drug dealing ranks out here. So Schedule 1 is a video game developer and published by, all it really says is TVGS. This looks like their first game they've released. I didn't really do too much searching, but if you click into their developer name on Steam, it only comes up with Schedule 1. So in Schedule 1, you're going to go from small-time dope pusher to kingpin, manufacture and distribute a range of drugs throughout the grungy city of Highland Point, expand your empire with properties, businesses, employees, and more. So normally priced $19.99 US, but on sale right now, 15% off for $16.99 through March 31st if you want to play this game called Schedule 1. So, a very sim-like game, kind of if you played Supermarket Simulator, if you played TCG Store Simulator, it's one of those games of walking around the world. It has Grand Theft Auto vibes a little bit. You're hustling, you're selling drugs, you're growing weed plants, you're mixing things together, you're having to go meet people and sell them, you're having to dodge the cops, you're having to buy all the supplies and things you need at different stores. You have to go to ATM, you got to get cash out. So there's a lot of funny things going on in this game. I think it's a very streamable game, and it's been super enjoyable to watch. So if you want to watch any VODs, I would recommend going to watch Heck and Steve or go watch Rachel K. They've been playing Schedule 1, and I bet some of your favorite streamers out there have been playing this game as well. So something that I think has been a really big success for these creators, and I am happy for them. Schedule 1 out now. So that's everything I had for you for the midsection of the show this week. We had a whole lot of stuff to talk about. We talked about the Nintendo Switch 1 Direct that took place last week and the final swan song for Nintendo Switch 1. And then we also talked about, if you're listening in real time, all eyes are pointed toward the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that's taking place next week, where we are going to get the announcement, I guess, of the release date of the console, maybe get some information on the software, and I am beyond excited. So Nintendo Switch 2 announcement coming next week, and definitely come back to the show next week. I'm going to be talking all about what they announced in the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct taking place on April 2nd, 2025. So we also talked about Game Informer being back. Very exciting there, and congratulations. We talked about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle coming to PlayStation 5 April 17th, 2025. I talked about Guns of Fury and Schedule 1, just some games to put on your radar that look really cool, and I've watched some gameplay of, and you can go play them right now if you'd like to. So that's everything for the midsection of the show this week. Thank you for listening to all the best video game news I can think of. And there is one final section of the show. So You're going to hear some lovely break music, and we're going to come back for the miscellaneous talk section of the show. So miscellaneous talk, anything outside the video game world. We're going to get into the worldwide world of sports after this. Welcome back to the final section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 122, the miscellaneous talk section, where I can talk about anything I want to outside of the video game world. So I want to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what is going on with all my favorite teams, as I like to do. So starting off with the NFL, the Carolina Panthers are my favorite team. All we're waiting for with them right now is the 8th pick overall in the draft of the 2025 draft coming up on April 24th. And we're looking forward to 2025. They've paid J.C. Horn, so I'm very excited and happy about that. And we got Bryce Young, who's ready to have a great season. I hope so. And, keep the quarterback conversations for the Panthers, out of the ether out there, so people aren't talking about it or even considering it. And that is the plan. So, go Panthers. Nothing too bad to report there. I don't have too many hopes for the draft. I think there's a lot of different positions of need, and I think they're in a pretty good position overall. So I don't have any strong opinions on who I think they should take. I'm glad we're not in the quarterback market. Never know, I guess, though. They could be with the way some of the NFL stuff goes these days. But you never know. But the Carolina Panthers, 8th pick overall in the upcoming draft, and that's the only thing really looking forward to on the radar there with the Panthers. So that's really all I have for the NFL news. For the NBA news, my two favorite teams, I am a halfway fan of the Charlotte Hornets, since I am a North Carolina resident now. They've been doing a lot of losing, and I would say the season is pretty close to being over, but I think you can put the pin in the Hornets season officially, at this point if you're listening to this podcast. So last Sunday at Miami, the Hornets lost 105-122. Tuesday versus Orlando, the Hornets lost 104-111. I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday they announced that LaMelo is out for the rest of the season. He had 2 minor procedures to address ankle and wrist issues. His season is over. So, I've lived in North Carolina for a couple years now. I've been going to Hornets games, and this has been the particular cadence that's taken place each season. The Hornets, LaMelo's been hurt, but definitely towards the end of the season when they don't have anything to play for, you're not going to be really seeing LaMelo out there or the full roster for the Hornets. So I think that is something that they need to obviously address. It's not the way they want things to be going, but it seems like they're saving LaMelo. They're trying to keep him healthy. They don't want him out there playing useless minutes, but are they ever going to get better or improve or have cohesion as a team? Or I don't know. I don't think that's the case. Obviously, it hasn't been working for them as well. But LaMelo's out for the season. I don't know if this is not even an indictment, anything really on LaMelo. He could really be having these issues, and it really needs to have them repaired and making the decision. But I think someone over there, this isn't all leading to winning basketball from a franchise standpoint. So I think there's some issues here with what's going on with the Hornets team. They've drafted some good players, but they definitely have not been putting these things together. They have a new head coach this season. Charles Lee seems like he's doing pretty good, but it's resulting in their season. Their season's been over for a long time. So LaMelo's out for the season. Very disappointing to see. I would definitely recommend not spending any money to go watch the Hornets right now unless you just really want something to do. But Friday at Toronto, the Hornets lost 97-108. Sunday they play at New Orleans today, 7 p.m. Next week the Hornets have Utah, Indiana, Sacramento, and Chicago. Or I believe that's the case. I wrote down 2 different things here, but hopefully that's the case. And then the week following that is actually the final week of the season. So we have 2 more weeks of NBA, and then we will be into playoff mode. So my favorite NBA team, another team that's been doing a lot of losing, the Atlanta Hawks. It's looking like they're the 7th seed in the East right now at this point, so they might be able to sneak into some playoffs. I don't really know what kind of damage in the playoffs they can do, but last Sunday versus Philly, the Hawks won 132-119, so that's nice. Tuesday at Houston, the Hawks lost 114-121. Thursday at Miami, the Hawks lost 112-122. Sunday today, the Hawks are playing at Milwaukee at 7 p.m. So both of my NBA teams are playing today at 7 p.m. So at least can check in with them and see what's going on in the basketball world. Next week, the Hawks have Portland, Dallas, Knicks, and Utah. So, going to be a lot less basketball updates here on the Dep Lewis Show in the miscellaneous talk section going forward. We only have 2 more weeks of basketball, and then the Hawks have a small chance in the playoffs. But after that, we're going to be, just completely going into baseball world, which has started as of last week. So that is the best news I've heard in a long time, and one of the best things to happen to me this year, that baseball is back. So the Atlanta Braves are my favorite team in the galaxy, in the world, and the baseball season is back going. But as I can report right now, it is 12:13 p.m. on Sunday, March 30th. The Braves have not won a game to start the season. They are 0-3 against the Padres so far. They play the Padres tonight in prime time at 7 p.m. And, I'm going to say they're going to get a win for sure. But the Braves are back. Been a little bit of struggle pitching, a little bit of struggle with, I guess, like the bullpen has been the main culprit. And then other than that, I think everything's looking pretty good. We've got to see Drake Baldwin, the new catcher, or the young catcher who's having to play a lot because of Sean Murphy. I think he's shown some good flashes. And I've also think, I don't know if he's ready to be our everyday catcher. Maybe he will be, but I think getting Murphy back and having Baldwin as the secondary guy, I think is going to be a really great setup and something I'm interested in seeing, and hopefully that's going to be the case. I'm not just like completely throwing Baldwin to the fire here. But for the Braves, games this week, season started on Thursday at the Padres. The Braves lost 4-7. Chris Sale was the starting pitcher for the Braves. I wrote it was good to see some of the new catcher Baldwin. It's been fun to see Profar leading off. He seems like he's a pretty good, energetic guy, a switch hitter. He's been doing a good job of getting on base, so I appreciate that. Chris Sale did a good job, so nice to see. He's our wily veteran out there. He's fun to watch, our Cy Young winner, and the bullpen didn't do so hot in this game. And then Friday at the Padres, the Braves lost 3-4. Ronaldo Lopez, or I've never really heard him be referred to as Raylo, but I really do like that as a nickname. So Raylo was on the mound for the Braves. Tatis homered pitch one, so I'm a Tatis fan, so that was nice to see outside of it being against the Braves. Dylan Cease pitched for the Padres, so that was fun to watch him. He's starting his first full year out with his new team. He looks a little bit different. He's got his hair all grown out. He's got a big giant beard, so looking a lot different than what you expect from Dylan Cease out there. Playing some pretty good baseball. Drake Baldwin cooled off this game, the catcher for the Braves, and Kelenic had a bomb. So nice to see out of Kelenic holding it down over there in the right field platoon, and hit one out of the park. Saturday at the Padres, the Braves lost 0-1. Schwellenbach was on the mound for the Braves. He went 6 innings with 4 Ks. Padres scored a run in the 7th, so the 7th inning has been a trouble spot for the Braves here early in the season. Usually the cliche for the Braves are, they get better 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. But maybe it's going to be the opposite case this year, and I hope that is not the case because that would be really bad news for the Braves in their season. So the Braves 0-3 so far, but I did get to see an Atlanta Brave in Charlotte last night. I got to see KK Strider. I got to see Spencer Strider out there. I call him KK Strider because I'm a KK Slider fan, and I have KK Strider in fantasy baseball. But I went to watch the Charlotte Knights versus the Gwinnett Stripers. So the Gwinnett Stripers are the AAA team for the Braves, and they were in town. And Spencer Strider started for them, getting a rehab assignment. So I was like, man, I got to go out there and see this. And it was extremely fun to watch. He pitched, I think, 3 or 4 innings. So he pitched a little bit more than I expected. I expected him maybe to go 2 innings. And he had some really crazy stuff. I think, maybe a little bit of rust shown, but he also had some pitches and that you were like, holy shit. Like, it was some really kind of like holy shit moments for him. And even some of the batters' swings, you were like, man, that was an insane pitch. So you could definitely see, I don't think Spencer Strider belongs on a AAA baseball field, but it was really, really cool to see. There were a lot of people in the building watching that, and it was, worth the price of admission to go see, one of the Braves aces out there, and hopefully going to be staying healthy for the rest of the season and getting called up to the big leagues really soon. So I don't know if I've ever seen Strider pitch in Atlanta, so it was nice to get to see him here in Charlotte, and just one of the benefits of having a minor league team close by. And I think that's going to be a great time, or I like to randomly go to the games, but that's going to be a good one to target. Is when a really good player is doing a rehab assignment, go check them out and get my eyes on them in person, because it is really fun to do so. So, I went and watched some live baseball yesterday, and that was the first one of the season for me, and just a really, really fun time. So, Charlotte Knights are really fun to go watch, and the Gwinnett Stripers, I got to be a fan because they are a Braves minor league team. So, shout out to Spencer Strider. Really, really fun to watch. The Braves play tonight at 7 p.m. on ESPN, and then next week the Braves have 3 at the Dodgers to start the week. No game Thursday, and then 3 versus Miami, the first homestead of the week in Atlanta for the Braves. So, loving the baseball being back, playing fantasy baseball, doing some baseball betting. Already hit a baseball bet, so really, really good stuff there. I think baseball has been I think I watched the most of it, so it's the one I have the most information on and best judgment on. So I think it's been the most fun one to gamble on, but please gamble responsibly out there if you do so. But it is a nice, fun addition if you can do it in a way to, that's reasonable for you. So what else is going on? Watching a lot of baseball. I've been watching, I have MLB TV going right now. I have the FanDuel Sports Network to watch the Braves, which has been really, really nice to have a dedicated app to watching the Braves. I don't have to try to pay for MLB TV and get a VPN, or have to pay for some $100 a month cable service that I don't watch any of the other channels on. So it's been really nice having the FanDuel Sports Network. So I want to say that on the show as well, as just a thank you for being able to pay basically for one channel. That is a big plus for a person like me in the way I watch TV. So it's been very, very nice. But I've also been in the MLB TV world because, I just can't get enough of this baseball. So, this miscellaneous talk section is going to be very baseball focused going forward. And I am a huge fan of that. So, go Braves. And hopefully they will be not an Owen today. As friend of the show, Pab, keeps calling them the Owens because they're 0-3. And they keep being Owens. And I don't want them to be Owens. So, Braves get a win today and make Pab, quiet his trolling down, which is hard to do, but, we need to do it in some small ways when we can. So go Braves and, go all my other teams. So that's everything I have for you on all my favorite sports teams: the Carolina Panthers, the Charlotte Hornets, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Atlanta Braves. And go Braves, get a win today. And I'll be back next week telling you about what's going on with all my favorite teams once again. So that's going to wrap up the miscellaneous talk section. And that's also going to wrap up the entire Dep Lewis Show, episode 122. So hopefully you enjoyed it. I have so much fun doing this every week. It's one of my favorite things to do in the world. I'd like to reiterate some promotional talk from the beginning. Follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. Twitch.tv/Dep Lewis Show is a great place to follow. I've been trying to stream every Sunday afternoon, playing some video games on Twitch.tv/Dep Lewis Show. So please come check me out. If you'd like to support the show even further than just listening, Patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you'd like to support the show. Thank you for listening. I'll be back next week for another episode as always. And next week, we're going to have the Nintendo Switch 2 information, so that is extremely exciting. Now bring your popcorn. Get ready for a really, really great show next week. I hope it's going to be one of the best ever. I hope Nintendo's going to release some great information, and I'm very, very excited about that. Having that coming, having baseball back, it's a really, really great time for this show and being able to talk about things that are of interest to me and really, really fun to talk about and make life a little bit exciting out there. So I hope you have a great week out there in the world, or whenever you listen to this. I hope you're doing good. If you're not doing good, I hope things get better sooner rather than later. I'm thinking about you here in this moment, and thank you for being a Dep Lewis Show listener, and I will see you next time.